I'm Reggie Ryder, and I'm speaking about the effects on children when their parents are going through a divorce. So how many people here have their parents gone through a divorce? Don't have to raise your hand if you don't feel comfortable doing so. All right, so about how many I expected after I did the research. But first, in order to understand all the things I went over, is the level of social acceptance of divorce in the United States. According to the CDC, which is the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, 35% of all marriages in 2017 ended in divorce, except 5 states didn't report the divorce numbers because they felt that they were too low. And they even had it in quotes on the website. It's been more normalized, in fact, that more people are seeing their parents divorced. In fact, when my parents divorced, my friends were so surprised that my parents were still married at my age, because all of my friends where I was from, their parents were divorced at such a young age that they just thought it was normal. That moves me into my second point of how it's easier now. Lawyers specialize now in divorce. There are divorce lawyers that people go to in order to get a divorce. The process is a lot easier. According to the National Council of Family Affairs, there were no-fault divorce laws that were implemented in the 1970s, throughout the 1970s, and they're not even federal. Some states are more strict with their no-fault divorce laws, some are more lenient, meaning no fault, you can divorce your husband or wife with no fault, whether it be adultery, they were stealing, committed a crime, or abusing you. Before that time, you would have to present something that was a reason to divorce your significant other. Now we transition into the effects on children through divorce. So the negative effects is what we're going to be talking about first. The negative effects a lot of you may be able to think of, but your social life is going to take a little bit of a hit. For me it did, because you don't really want to go out and socialize. I wanted to stay at home. I wanted to also go out at the same time, but I didn't feel comfortable going out just yet, because the only thing I had on my mind was my parents going through that divorce. And I even talked to my brothers and my friends who also went through the same thing, and they had the same problems. You also question whether or not you were the reason for the divorce, or since you see it as, well, I saw it as, your parents don't love each other anymore. That's why they're splitting up. Do they still love you? That was the biggest question. You can't go ask them that, because you know what they're going to tell you. I was at an age old enough to understand, I can't go ask them that, but my 2 younger brothers, one was a 12-year-old, the other was a 6-year-old. They didn't really understand that they couldn't go ask that. So they went ahead and asked that, and it made it more uncomfortable for everybody involved. More so into the school aspect, as well as the focus. When you're at school, you're still thinking about it, especially once you find out, or if they're going through it. Divorce usually can take up to a long time, and varying on the states. It can take up to 30 days, or it can take up to 6 months, depending on whether or not both your parents want to get divorced or they go to court for it. So depending on that time frame, the longer you're in school, or the longer that divorce is going on, the more it's going to affect your study time. When I was in school, it didn't really affect me as much, but I watched my brother go down a steady decline with his academics. And I talked to him about it, and it was mostly because he couldn't get his head out of thinking about our parents getting a divorce. But that also doesn't come without the positive effects of a divorce. Positive effects are children's minds mature a lot faster. Mine sure did. I felt like I had to step up and be a bigger role model for my brothers. My younger brother, who's only 2 years younger than me, felt like he had to step up even more now so that I'm gone in college for my younger brother, who's just now turning 10. They also learn to adapt to certain situations a lot faster and a lot more efficiently. For example, when I transitioned from a public school to a high school, it was a lot easier than most people had to do it, or a public school to a private school. It was a lot easier for me to do it than most people, because I had to adapt from going from both parents being together to switching between houses, different lifestyles every other weekend. It allowed me to be able to learn to adapt and find better coping methods to adapt. It also helped me to understand that not everything's also everlasting. It helped me understand a lot more, I think, at that young of an age. Now that I look at it, yeah, I can see that, but at that time I still didn't understand that. Also, a great positive effect that I instantly found out was you get to spend a lot more quality time with your parents. When you're with your parent now, you're not always seeing them every night when they get home from work or you get home from school. You get to see your mom for a week, and then the next week you get to see your dad, depending on how the court rules, or you choose who you get to see more, or if it's an even time. I chose to live with my mom. After about a year, I ended up choosing to live with my dad because of the back and forth. It was so inconsistent. My dad had worked nights, I had school during the day, so it just worked out better. But I also got to spend a lot more quality time with my dad and developed a lot closer of a relationship with him that I really never had, because I had never really got to see him, but now I got to see him a lot more on the weekends. And with my mom, even so that. Even when she had remarried, I was able to reconnect with her in many different ways than you would think, because she went out of her way to connect with me and my brothers in order to build a stronger relationship with us. That's all I have. Thank you.